Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 78 of the OG Technically Trek. I am your humble host, Dave Prime. Over there on my left is the witchy Captain Katie. How are you doing, my dear?
I am alive. I've had a very long day.
I hear you there.
Yeah, I've had about an hour and a half, well, about an hour's light sleep and then about 30 minutes snooze. And then I've had
Mm,
a really long day. I've been on my feet all day. Then I went to a book signing and I actually didn't get home until about what, 2.5 hours ago.
2.5 hours ago is when I finally got to watch the episode. That's been how hectic it's been for me.
Well, because I knew this was going to be a very late night for me. Well, I
Mm.
say very late night, it's like long day, late night home. I actually watched the episode yesterday just in case I didn't have time to watch it tonight.
Yeah, so yeah, I almost didn't have time tonight because it's just like house dramas, the joys of being a house manager, but it's like got that all taken care of. But while I was waiting for a person, this guy just started to nod off a little bit. So it's been a long, crazy couple of days. But see,
Yeah.
I saw you doing the air drums and the air violin during the opening credits there.
I know one of these days something's going to go wrong and I'm going to get really lost in it and we're going to start the show with me doing the air violin. I really need to keep a check on that.
Well, no, but I point that out because initially, when I chose this for the opening credit music, you weren't too fond of it. It seems to be growing on
No.
you.
No, yeah, it does seem to be growing on me. It does. Yeah, I kind of get into it because I start with the sway, then the air drums, and then the air violin at the end, and yeah.
Yeah, and one of these days I'm going to find the time to actually resync the countdown to go with the new countdown music, so that you see they don't get upset with me possibly using something that could be their property. It's like even though as cool as that countdown is, so yeah, you don't want to piss off the BBC.
You see, I really love that countdown as well.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really do.
And as someone that worked in broadcasting, yeah,
Yeah.
it's catchy. I like it, but seeing the new music that I found, it's totally free. Don't I forget where I saw it from. They say just use it. You don't have to credit us or anything like that. But once I get like a closing credits sequence set up, I'm hopefully going to get that done before episode 100, which we're just 31 episodes away from that. Say good grief, that's still a couple of months.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, talking about things on the show, that's one thing about our show that makes it unique from the other Star Trek podcasts. We actively welcome participants to pop in live on camera or on audio only. If you're a little camera shy, you'll just get a little icon that'll blink when you're talking. But if you click on the link below, just go to StreamYard. We got about 7 slots available right now for people to pop in, or you can just chat away on the YouTube chat, and we'll put your stuff up on the screen. And yeah, so yeah, just you can either drop me or you can drop Katie. Hers is Katie underscore XXX, and then mine's right there, just Techno Day at Techno Dave on Twitter. You can get a link. It's streaming on Twitter right now, so you can click that, and that'll get you where you need to go
I
to
just
participate live.
I feel like I need to interject something here.
Sure,
Those three X's are kisses.
not
Just
porn.
no. And do you know what? Now I will tell everybody a secret. I actually got messages from a lot of people basically asking if my profile was a porno profile. And I'm like, no, why would you think that? And they said, oh, the triple X. And I'm like, what has the triple X got to do with that? I did not know. I did not know. But as everyone knows, because of my comments on here, I always put three kisses at the end of everything. And so I added it to my handle as well. So yeah, just so everybody knows, they are kisses. I just had to point that out.
Yeah, and that's how I think you get so many followers back is because they think you are like doing pornographic stuff, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, unless you're doing like Star Trek porn cosplay, that'd be some. That'd be something. But yeah, saying so. Yeah, definitely pop in, give us a shout, or like I said, just over there on the YouTube chat, you can do that. But speaking about shout outs, I just got to give a quick shout out to my partner Dubby, where they offer 10% off if my brain wants to actually work right. There we go. If you go to w.gg and enter the code TechTrek, TEKTREK, any non-bundled orders that you purchase, you'll get 10% off, and you'll get a thank you from me on the next episode when I see people that are using the code to buy stuff. So yeah, but we are going to not do that. See, it's been a long weird week for me, so it just the watching Star Trek is a bit of an escape for me, so that helps things out tremendously. But on the flip side, sometimes episodes are a little bit of a yawner. And this one, I
It's
mean,
I didn't think it was a bit of a yawn. I just think that they could have done so much more with it.
yeah. I
I
mean, and
think
it was almost an hour episode too, so it was interesting. But saying, unfortunately, what one of our regular participants, Tyson, he is off getting his vehicle refinanced, so he promises he'll be back next week. So maybe we'll get a little start the episode to get just a little abridged idea of what he thought of the episode. But we do have the UFP president Travis backstage. So how's it going, dude?
Everyone. Oh man, uh, it's been it's been a long, I should say, not a long weekend, but it's just been one of those weekends where you just coming off of it. It is a Monday for a lot of us. Some in a different part of the world, it's actually a Tuesday for others and stuff. And you just you look at it and you thinking, where did my day or where did my weekend go by at times?
Mm,
You just wonder that it, it's a tempest fugit, time flies. Sometimes you just realize, I don't know, you get your days kind of confused. You be like, wait, what day is it? But all in all,
oh
I'm
darling.
here. I'm ready to talk Star Trek, especially this final episode, which it, Dave put it as, a yawner. I say it wasn't, it didn't serve any big big anticlimactic reel when it came to a season finale that as we Trek fans are used to. We didn't it didn't have that suspense. It didn't have that type of like, oh my god, what's happening next? You were sitting, you was on the edge of your seat and everything else. I have been critical of some of the new Star Trek, as I'm an old OG type of Star Trek fan myself, from TOS, TNG, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise, and stuff, and all the movies that preceded that and this stuff. I have tried to give everything a good shot and everything else. Discovery wasn't my favorite. I watched it as a Star Trek fan, but I still offer my constructive criticism and stuff. But like Strange New World, you know, ha- to me has come back in a way which each episode that they showed was different in itself. It wasn't a whole story arc episode. And sometimes they went back, and as you see in the opening credits that yes, there's gonna explain the whole Captain Patel, um what's it, the nurse Gamble, the whole ancient alien, ancient evil in the galaxy and stuff and everything else. And I kind of seen where this was going to go and stuff, in a sense, the story. But it led up to the ending and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, okay. It fell on the wayside for me.
I I really enjoyed the episode. However, it was very anticlimactic. It seemed to end so suddenly. It was more mystical than scientific for me, which, you know, I'm all for, you know, which but it was, I don't know, it was like they could have done so much more with it. They could have they could have explained things a little bit more, because for me it was like they did all this like story with Batel, and it was solely focused on her and the possessed dude.
Ensign Cutie, which yay, he was back. But
well, yeah, you know, and I
Exactly.
really loved him, and I was like, I actually cried when he died. But you know, it was,
and he died
I
again,
don't know.
essentially.
Yeah, but it was like, it was so focused on the rivalry between, well, not rivalry, but the animosity between those two. And like, you know, light against dark. It was like they couldn't, how can I put this without sounding like a bitch?
This is an open forum.
I really can't. It was like they couldn't find anything to do for this episode in between this fight for between light and dark, so they just filled it with nonsense. Even though it was lovely, it was sweet, it seemed to not take away, but it just seemed to fall flat in between the good bits. And then when it came to the end, and like that vision of the future, alternate reality, whatever it was, when that came to an end, it was so abrupt, and it ended, and then the episode was over, and I'm just like, hold on a minute, what just happened there?
Well, that was
they had all the swirly, ghostly, evil things, and then all of a sudden it's just poof, and I'm just like, hold on a minute. If I had a shit ton of ghostly goings on around me, and I had to seriously do some form of like exorcism, you know, it'd take more than just, and you know, I've done exorcisms literally, but you know, I'm like, you know, you want to get rid of them. It's more than just poof and oh, now I am light and now I am a statue. You know, it just seemed a little bit too quick, a little bit too easy. There was just no grr to the episode.
Yeah.
But
hey, what you was gonna say?
Well, two things. One, hey Dennis, it's great seeing you on here again. It's been a while, so welcome back.
Yes,
but
welcome back, Dennis.
But one thing, I mean, this was a good episode.
It was.
But it was a very bad one for a season finale. This could have been something that they could have done midway through and did something else for the finale. But yeah, see, especially like I said, the way season 2 ended with the Gorn and all that. This was a good episode, but a bad finale. But the executive producers have said that season 4 is going to be better. So even they acknowledged that this wasn't probably their best season, because I mean there's a couple episodes that I'm just like, eh.
So, you see, and you know, you get that in every season of any series. You do get the odd episodes that fall a little flat. You do get episodes like this season finale where it's just like there's so much build up and all this talk about, you know, the pattern in the buffer is gone. The dead cute nurse has, you know, been reestablished so that this great evil can possess him, you know, and there was such a build up with that, albeit albeit, it was a build-up, but it was still too calm for my liking. Considering, the way Pelia reacted, for starters, and she got more than the heebie-jeebies. She was terrified. And
Oh yeah, but
with everything that was, said in the previous connecting episode, it just seemed like there was all this build-up about this great evil, and then they did this. And I'm like, yeah.
See, I need to take an important phone call, but before I do that real quick, did you catch the Doctor Who reference at the beginning of the episode?
Yes, I did.
So they totally
Yes.
subtle, but it's like totally Doctor Who. So I say I got my Whovian T-shirt on today underneath my Star Trek one, but I just like it's like this Doctor I traveled through time with, and I was like, oh my god, really? That's the second Doctor Who reference in this season. So I thought that was pretty big. But yes, and one of my residents says he needs to talk to me right now, so I'm going to just.
That's absolutely acceptable.
But
one thing that I do want to mention is what I was saying about the build-up. I don't believe that, as Dave said, I don't believe this should have been a season finale. I think this should have been more of a mid-season thing. I think they should have done things in a different order in this season. I think that maybe, maybe like the third episode, they should have done the initial
they should have put this episode. It should have been last week's episode, and they did something different for the season.
What I was actually going to say is like the first part of this saga type thing with this great evil and the weird looking statue and stuff. That should have been somewhere around season 3, and then this episode should have been somewhere around season 6 or 7. And I do believe that they should have had, because in all honesty, last week's episode would have made a much better season finale than this. And it just, I don't know. I thought I knew where they were going with this episode. I really did. And it's not often that I am just sat there like so confused about where an episode's gone, because I can usually gauge quite well. But, the build-up it gave, like from like the previously on Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and then the build-up at the beginning, like the first like 15 minutes of the episode. Well, maybe like 20 minutes. And then there's all this build-up, and then there's the confrontation, and poof. And I'm just like, I'm sat there. I mean, bearing in mind, like I thought it was just me. I really did. Because, I was like half asleep and everything. But I'm just like, have I missed something? I actually rewound it. I actually went back to like 15 minutes in and watched it again, just to make sure that I hadn't missed anything, because I thought, have I zoned out and missed something really important? And it was just, as I said, poof.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will feel the way how we feel about this particular episode, in a sense, because it lacked any pizzazz to it. Like you said, it didn't give it didn't give us leaving us on suspense on, oh my goodness, like, just how big of a threat this great evil of the galaxy is. And they build it up to this anticlimactic saga, and then it was just like, Brr, brr, brr.
But as well,
Like,
I mean, there was all this, he went down in that weird transport thing, and there was people poking out their own eyes and everything, and it's like, oh my god, this is going to be like really, this is some build up, and then it was like a slow climb, and then it was like, oh, this is getting, and then poof.
Yep.
And it was
Yep.
almost like they decided to just throw the rest of the episode off a cliff. And there's no water at the end, at the bottom of that cliff for any form of soft land. And if anything, it was rough seas with jaggedy rocks. And
Yeah.
I'm not usually this bitchy about Star Trek unless it's, yes, I loved that. I really do. I can't stand Doctor Who, but I love the TARDIS.
Oh, okay. You wound me when you say that, Katie. See,
I know. I love Torchwood. I absolutely adore it, but I just don't like Doctor Who. The only Doctor Who that I can stand is David Tennant.
Oh,
But
yeah,
even then, I just didn't like the whole. I don't know what it was, but anyway.
maybe.
But yeah, I'm not usually like this about Star Trek unless it's TOS, in all honesty. But this had this for me had a very TOS feel to it. It was like so much was happening, and then it ended up all that was happening was completely pointless. And I'm just like, no, they can't be doing this. They can't be going down the same route and making the same mistakes as TOS, because that's what they're supposed to be correcting. And I'm just like, please, for the love of everything that is unholy, sort yourselves out for season 4.
Well, now, not to get, this is technically Trek and stuff and everything. Just a little current, news breaking and stuff and everything. David Ellison, who created Skydance, a conglomerate company and stuff. Skydance just purchased, as if anybody didn't know, Skydance and Paramount was set to close the deal, which it finally went through, and they finalized it back last month on August the 7th or the 8th. I'm not really for sure, but now Paramount is part of Skydance. Skydance, who is owned by David Ellison, and his father is Larry Ellison, the founder and owner of Oracle. If anybody don't know, Oracle is one of the multi-billion-dollar companies in the world, and between Larry Ellison and Elon Musk, them two are battling out for the richest person on the planet. Now, with that said, the purchase of Paramount from Skydance, it was an $8 billion purchase and stuff and everything else. David Ellison is a huge fan of the movie industry. He's a huge fan of Star Trek. Now, they just recently, from what's out, different types of outlets has been reporting and stuff. There was a meeting among executive David Ellison and stuff, and they're talking about the future and direction of, where they want to go for, like, their property, their IPs and stuff and everything else. But also too, just in the last week or so, there has been talk too that David Ellison and his father is considering purchasing Warner Brothers Discovery. And a lot of people are a little apprehensive because they talk about monopoly when you're getting into monopoly territory, because you got only 5 major studios in Hollywood, which is Paramount, Warner Brothers Discovery, Disney, Universal, and Sony. Those are the 5 major outlets, major studio outlets and stuff. And with that said, I mean, they have the money to buy, because they want to buy, because the market value of Warner Brothers Discovery is said to be like $70 billion or so. But what I'm getting at is, like, with that purchase of Paramount, David Ellison have stated that there's going to be a new direction for Star Trek in the foreseeable future. and stuff. I probably have said this on another show and stuff and everything. This is just reiterating to fans and stuff and everything. There's gonna be like, I'm not sure if they even have season 4 written out and stuff, but like,
You know,
you can start.
yeah, season 4 I think is in post production, so we might be seeing it here
Well,
sooner rather than later.
anything that probably season 5, you probably see something different because with David Ellison's purchase and stuff and everything. Not saying he's gonna get his hands in, the Star Trek and stuff like that, but he's gonna want the people who oversee the Star Trek to make it appealable to a lot of to the fan base and stuff and everything. Make it desirable and stuff and everything. Make it like because they're going out in the fifth season. Make it worthwhile of saying, hey, this show was on for this X amount of time, and we want fans to be satisfied with this and stuff and everything else. So you're gonna start seeing probably, we don't know what the direction and stuff and everything, but with what I'm saying is,
Did
you even said season 4 is in post production and stuff, and this season kind of felt and stuff. It didn't really seem like the type of before in the past couple of seasons, but they're doing probably a little course correction, like you said, Dave, about like season 4 is going to do do some more, take some more bigger risk, or do something more, not outrageous, but like make fans talk about Star Trek, leave a lasting impression on fans and stuff and everything else. Yeah, I know I've been a critic of like these new, like I said, these new Star Trek and stuff, but I I would like to see something nice come out of it, just like how we did with Star Trek Picard, especially season 3 of Star Trek Picard, and
Mm.
Lower Decks. I
sorry
really
to
enjoy.
interrupt.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but seeing as you brought up Picard, have you heard the rumors that they're wanting to for season 5 of Strange New Worlds get Terra Metalis in?
I did not know, and I wouldn't be surprised because Terry Metellus was on a big road. People compliment him as the showrunner for season 3 of Star Trek Picard, and I
Yeah,
suspected David
there's
Ellison.
rumors.
Oh,
Yeah, there are rumors
I
that they're trying to get him for season 5.
And you know what? It would fit in his, right up his alley, just based on how we was all impressed with season 3 of Star Trek Picard, and stuff.
Yeah.
And I know David Ellison he wants Star Trek to be, because some of us fans have been very, very critical and harsh about the most recent Star Trek stuff that has been laid out. Not all of it, but some of it and stuff. And I know David is a fan of, like I said before, I think last week, of the Gene Roddenberry, Rick Berman's Star Trek and stuff. So he wants to
Yes.
kind of get back to that. He wants to kind of us to get back to and put Star Trek back onto that course and stuff. Not to say we get off and stuff, because we're still talking about the Star Trek and still talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds. The next season of Strange New Worlds, we're going to see a big difference. And then I know too, was that Starfleet Academy's coming out? That has, that's going to be something that we'll see. We'll see how long that will last, because that's not when it was green light and when it was green lit. David Ellison was not in charge of uh Paramount and stuff and everything. Now he is and stuff, but like, we wait and see how he feels about having this new series on, and see how long this will last and stuff and everything else. So with Strange New World coming to the final couple of seasons, the last 2 seasons and stuff in the next few years, we're going to see something probably worthy of what Star Trek has probably, what should have always been about and stuff and everything. Like you said, Terry Metalis coming in as the showrunner for season 5. My goodness, that will be such it would be very, it would very,
Now, it's only
very
rumors
unique.
that I've heard. It is
Now,
only
those are rumors.
rumors.
If that's the truth, because we're just speculating, that's just rumors and stuff like that. We just, Katie just said that, she just only heard rumors and stuff and everything. Yes, Dennis. Yes, yes. Uh, Actually, there was a trailer that came out this summer, wasn't it? Back in Comic-Con. Yeah, I believe Comic-Con released
Yeah.
the trailer. Yeah, yeah, Comic-Con released the trailer, and it looked
Now, I'm
promising.
very intrigued by it because I love Tilly. I really do.
Yeah.
But also Robert Picardo is going to be in it. And I'm very intrigued by one casting, and that is Becky Lynch. And apparently she's going to be part of the bridge crew in Starfleet Academy. So I'm very intrigued as to what part she's going to play, and whether it's just going to be a couple of episodes or she's going to be like an integral member of the crew. I don't know, but I've followed her wrestling career, and I'm very intrigued by that choice in casting.
I mean, and you know what? A lot of fans, ever since the ending of Star Trek Picard season 3, fans have been going nuts because what we saw was,
yes,
the Enterprise G, which I totally think that they shouldn't even done the Titan renamed the Enterprise G, but we saw, what the new what the people on the bridge, the captain, 709. Ralphie is her first officer. Jean-Luc Picard and Beverly Crusher's son, as the
I
captain's,
love him.
right hand assistant. And we saw LaForge's daughter and others and stuff and everything. And a lot of fans was like, "Oh my God, are they setting up for of a future, legacy or something?" And that's what people was going with, for the Star Trek legacy. Now, I don't know. I'm not, and I'm not just here to spread rumors or anything. And a lot of fans have been wondering, are they going to continue to, are they going to do something with everybody we seen at the end of Star Trek Picard on the Enterprise G, as they call Star Trek, legacy or something, moving forward instead of backwards, like going back, for a prequel, but we're moving forward, along that type of
it's needed
time. And that's something too. That was something, and nobody said anything, but that was something that brought up into the boardroom meeting with David Ellison and stuff and everything. So we have to wait and see what they are wanting to do, if there are going to be any, future plans for, you know them continuing on the spinoff from Star Trek Picard, especially season 3. See something there, thing. See something, because they had elements not just of Star Trek Picard, TNG, DS9, Voyager, and stuff. You have, you could do a lot with, moving forward with people and stuff when it comes to, a whole spin-off of Star Trek Picard and stuff and everything. So that said, everybody, I'm not trying to take up too much time talking about that and everything. I just want to say that, keep everybody keep their ears out in the next, several months and stuff, and everything, especially going into the New Year's, because we're coming to the end of the year here soon. Just keep the ears out, retrades and stuff. Just listen and hear. I know there's rumors and stuff and everything else, but they're gonna want to move forward quickly on, bringing new Star Trek stuff to the not just to the big screen, but to the streaming into the streaming world as well. So yes, Dennis. Oh, I see Dennis. Yes.
Yeah, I've been hearing rumors about Legacy as well, and there've been conflicting rumors. But we shall just see what the future brings. But there is one thing that I do want to discuss.
Please
and
do.
it is all Strange New Worlds. Just a little look back on this season, because regardless of good episodes, intense episodes, like really, oh holy hell episodes, and the smile from Spock and the very anticlimactic season finale.
Finger pulling.
Yeah, there's been a lot of ups and downs, but there's been a lot of heavy hitting messages in this season. And I don't know if this is just me, because I do look at things a lot differently than
Yes, everybody, like and subscribe to our channel.
Because
And
we got almost 30 people watching right now, according to the StreamYard. So the lines are open. I got 7 slots for you to hop in on the chat.
let me just check my Twitter.
And so you can click
Exactly.
the link below, and that'll get you to the StreamYard link, and then you just click if you want to have your camera on or not, and bam, we'd love to hear from you. See what you thought about this episode. See what you thought about the season as a whole.
Well, come on, don't be. I mean, I say if you're not afraid to come join us, don't be shy. We love participation. Participate with us and everything. We love it. But Katie, what was you saying again? I'm so sorry.
No, it's absolutely fine, my sweet. I tend to look at things a lot differently than the average person. I tend to delve quite deep into the psychology of things. And there's been a lot of heavy hitting messages in this season. And I don't know if because of the excitement of some of the episodes or the how some episodes have fell flat, that these messages have been missed. I hope that they haven't. But one episode that stands out for me in particular was, and I can't even remember the name of it. But it was it last week's episode?
Yeah, Terrarium.
Yeah, Terrarium. Yeah. Thank you. For me, that is one episode that had the biggest message of all, and it brought up an issue for me that, and this is what I love about Trek. What it brought up for me was that there is a lot of stereotypical thinking still in this world. And Justin Simeon, not a clue.
No idea. I have to look it up.
But the episode Terrarium, like I say, brought up big issues for me, because it brought up a very huge issue of stereotyping. And there is so much of that in this world at the moment, and not a lot of people are willing to address it or discuss it. And that's one thing I love about Trek. They are not shy of bringing real world issues into the world of Star Trek. And
the sitcom that Dennis brought up. Sorry, go ahead, Katie.
No, it's absolutely fine. But a lot of people get misjudged. No, that's wrong. the wrongs of certain people or a collective group of people can have people thinking that, like, for example, the hate towards the trans community, for example, that is a few people who just so happen to be trans or claim that they are, who really aren't, do bad things, and then that entire group of people are ostracized, demonized. And Terrarium really brought all that to the surface for me, because yeah, fair enough, the Gorn are not exactly what we would call a nice group of people. But you know, the baby ones are so gorgeous and cute. And I stand by that. You know, I am unanimous in this. But it showed in that episode that not the entire race is like that. And that was a big, heavy hitting message for me. And there's been other really big hitting messages in this season in general. You know, like no matter how bad things get, you know, you can still prosper. And you can't let things get you down. I know that some of them are very cliche, but they're still very hard-hitting messages. And going up against major adversity, you know, you can always get through it. And yeah, there have been episodes that have felt pretty flat. Same as this season finale. But I still see a lot of things in there that are beautiful. And oh, don't worry, I yawn my way through everything. But there's still some beautiful messages within this episode.
Absolutely.
And you know, regardless of how anticlimactic it was, and regardless of how deflated it has us all, there's still a lot there's so much beauty in the messages from this. And I would really much like to focus on that, because you know what, one big thing is love in this episode. And you know, I know that a lot of people don't want to go down the sappy, mushy, gooey stuff, you know, and I don't really, but there's a lot of love in this episode, and there's a lot of light as well as dark. And for me, even though it was very poof and it was gone, and you know, it did fall off a cliff straight into jaggedy rocks on a rough sea, you know, there was still a lot of beauty in it. And I just hope that people saw that, and people can, like, who aren't very happy with this season finale, I hope that they can take away this beauty, because it for me, it was very heavy hitting. I mean, regardless of how badly the second half of the episode went, by the end of it hit me in the feels, you know. And I don't know. I think there's more to this episode than people realize if you look deeper into it.
Maybe it's one of those episodes you got to watch 2 or 3 times to finally wrap your brain around all what's going on in it, because they did pack a lot in it. It was one of the longer episodes of the season at about 55 minutes once you include the credits. But yeah, when they first started doing, when say Batel, her hands started glowing, then bam, all of a sudden we're in an alternate reality, and and say they're doing this, then they hop again, they hop again, they hop again. They keep on hopping in time like
Yeah.
everything's all kosher. Say they even address the um the mission that Pike went on that put him in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
It didn't happen to him. So we are off in a whole new alternate reality, but there's always this constant knocking at the door and no one's getting it, and everyone's hopping, hopping, hopping. And then when Batel was on her
Yeah.
deathbed, she told him to go answer it, and it was reality. It was instant cutie. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't gamble. I mean, that's the way I always going to refer him to as, because he was cute. He was adorable. But
You know, one thing for me as a person of science and stuff and everything and technology, the one thing that I really enjoy seeing is, okay, they had to figure out to get a to direct enough energy or enough power to open up a door, the equivalent of our star, of our sun and stuff and everything else. And when they came up with the idea of, the Enterprise can only do half of what they needed, I was like, oh, because we seen Captain Kirk, and stuff. I was like, so are we going to see the Farragut again? Which we saw the Farragut and stuff. I love the little technical how they got this and everything else. Spock did a mind meld with James Kirk.
Yeah.
And that was, that little technical thing where they basically was in sync with each other because they was basically psychically linked to each other. And for a time being that they was both controlling the ship and stuff, which Spock even said firing the phaser is just rudimentary. It doesn't require you, it's just pushing a button and stuff. But getting the ships in synchronous uh syncing with each other. Yes.
they were
Uh
close to a black hole. I did not catch that. I say,
that
but
I did not catch either.
yeah,
That's something I did not catch.
yeah. Dennis
That,
was talking about things in the background on the shelves that there's like meaning to some of those to some extent. I
and,
say,
and
York Hillenbrand, I'm sure he's gonna be nitpicking and posts and say, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this, which
Yeah.
he is great on picking up those little things.
what about Kirk's brother, who
Sam.
mentioned ley lines in space? He said ley line, Enterprise was ley. I'm like,
Yes.
wait, whoa, what's going on here? It said Enterprise was saying what's the name of
Yes.
He used that. He used the ley line as a way to transport himself to the planet. I'm sitting there like ley lines in space and stuff and everything else.
Yes.
And across, I was like, where did all this come from? The technical jargon and stuff aside and everything else. I was pretty intrigued by
Mm,
that and everything. Like I said, the
no.
the um
Mm,
the way they directed both ships, the Farragut and Enterprise phasers, directly at a specific point, to get the precise energy to open up the doorway. I'm sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, like Spock said, if they're even off like a picometer and stuff, they could destroy, you know, practically that big old thing that they was on.
Mm.
It's like if they're off and stuff and everything. And I'm like, this is almost like a surgeon using a scalpel instead of a blunt
yes.
force like knife or sword and stuff.
But it was beautiful. It was. This is one of the beautiful things in it. Now, not only did they basically like do my Mel share consciousness, but the way that the ships, the formation of
Rotated.
the ships, and I was right there with Pelia. I was like, I was literally, I was sat watching it, and I was just like, oh my god, this is lovely, this is beautiful, this is beautiful, and I really was so excited about it because the precision of it, the beauty of it. It was like synchronized swimming slash ice dancing slash, you know, Star Trek. It was, and it was just, it was perfect. And, you know, I don't use that word lightly because, you know, it's not a word that is accurate the way that it's used, but the way that was, just everything, the precision of it, it was beautiful. It was almost, it was like a dance. It was like a waltz. And it was so pretty. It really was. But the ley lines, now, yeah, ley lines in space, I was like, they're really going there. They're finally going there. And I've been waiting for this to be brought up for what feels like millennia in Trek, because I've never heard ley lines being mentioned in Star Trek like this, or at all, in fact. And a lot of people don't know what ley lines are, so I will give a brief explanation. Ley lines are basically channels. They are energy channels. And on a planet, like on Earth, for example, there are ley lines all over the place. They are a convergence. They are a pathway. They help direct energy. And kind of like, they're in some way like meridians in the body. And like your chakras, when they're out of alignment, they're all, but then, you know, you get them in alignment, everything flows. And, you know, it's not just confined to a planet, because energy is universal, quite literally. And so there has to be channels for this energy to run on where it is the most potent, basically. And so having ley lines in space is very understandable. And yeah, I've been waiting for Star Trek to go down this route, and it makes sense. It does. Now, a lot of people probably won't think so, but it is. That is how the universe works. It's energy, it's matter, it's space.
And it was an absolute conduit for the Vazda to right to the next planet. So, like uber warp.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at certain things in the universe, if you look at like certain galaxies, if you look at certain like nebula, like different nebulas, you know, the patterns, and I've seen this in like science journals and things. The like one of them is the patterns in a nebula. If I'm remembering this correctly, because you know my memory is awful, but like they brought up a picture, like an image of a nebula, and or was it a galaxy? One or the other. And then they brought up a picture of the human eye. And there were very similar patterns. And then they did the same with connecting synapses in the human brain and the network of root systems underground from trees. And then other patterns that the universe displays out there in the great beyond. And that the similarities were breathtaking, and these were in science journals that I saw. And so yeah, everything is connected, and I like it when science goes down the route of, you know, because a lot of people think ley lines are more mystical, but they're not. They're energy channels, basically. And it's scientifically, you know, science is all for this as well, you know. And I like it when those two things are smushed together and explained together, so that like the mystical and the scientific can be combined. And you know, I like it. I'm really glad that they went down this route.
Oh, me too. Because when she first said ley lines, first thing I was thinking about is the paranormal investigations I've done in the past, where we utilize like ley lines and trying to find energy deposits and things like that.
Yeah.
Like limestone, a huge conduit for paranormal activity.
But yeah, I like it when things take this kind of turn. And even Pike said at one point a technologically bleh. Let me start that again. A technology so advanced it seems like magic. And yeah, you know, and it makes perfect sense. You know, the ley lines were mentioned, magic was mentioned, but a lot of magic and like the mystical side of like the ley line thing, it can't be explained scientifically, you know. And I mean, everybody knows I'm a witch, you know, and I do a lot of meditation. I'm all for my natural remedies, and I do like chakra realignments on myself and things like that. And it's all about energy and synchronizing that energy, realigning that energy. And, you know, even crystals. I've got one here that has its own electromagnetic frequency. And all crystals do. And it has been scientifically proven. You know, and everything has its own energy. And the fact that that was spoken about in this episode, I love. And there was a lot of more mystical than science, than more mysticism than science in this episode, in my opinion. And I liked that because it was, even though it wasn't fully explained to a point where I would have liked, it was sort of explained. And it made perfect sense. Well, it did to me anyway. It's just a shame that they went the way about it that they did. That's my only disappointment, because I love this episode and I love the potential that this episode could have had, but the way they went about it, I don't think it was correct. I don't. But all the elements were there. All the elements were there for it to be a whopper of a season finale, even with a very somber ending. But they just, it's almost like they failed to grasp the full concept. And it kind of seemed to me that they didn't fully understand what they were doing with it, if that makes sense.
Like I said, yeah, it was a great like middle of the season episode, but for a finale, you want to have a finale to have a lot of pop to draw people in for the next season. And I really think, I mean, the potential is there, but it just no.
Yeah.
But
the elements were there. The elements were there. Literally every single thing was there for it to be so good. Even if it did fall a little bit flat at the end, you know, like what everybody coming down from what happened. It's just, I don't know, it's almost like they got all these ideas together and they were like, yeah, this is going to be brilliant. And like the energy was there, but they didn't know what to do with that energy. And it is, Yeah, it's like they traveled along the wrong way line. Yeah.
But yeah, Des brought up interesting observation. Some of the fringe news outlets are saying that energy lines, and saying as more as time goes on, saying as house manager here in Colorado Springs for my sober house, I mean, there's definitely been a lot of interesting characters. I mean, I have let people in and have had to kick them out because they just don't want to seem to follow the steps, or they're doing something really weird that just kind of goes against the rules of the house. And you want to get them on the right path, but some of them are faltering. And hopefully that as time goes on, that if they kind of strayed off that line, they can get back on it again. And that's always the hope that I have for anyone that comes in this house. So
this is why I do a lot of meditation, because it helps to realign my energy. And I think that, you know, those that were creating this episode could have done to have, you know, partaken in some meditation before bringing this episode together. I mean, the entire cast did an amazing job.
oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, I'm not taking anything away from them. They were absolutely amazing. It was and you see, I don't think it was necessarily the writers neither, because it's like I said, all the elements were there, the energy was there. It wasn't aligned, basically. And that was disappointing.
Well, yes, talk about that. And speaking of disappointment, since we're kind of doing a rehash of the season, is say Ortega's. Is saying it seems like she done nothing wrong. And even though she was insubordinate and there were consequences earlier in the season, there was one episode that she was put on restrictions, and now everything seems all okie dokie. And she says, I'll go as fast as I want. I'll go as fast, just go as fast as you want. And she's like, okay. So it's kind of a nod on that episode where she went a little faster than she should have and got detected by the Klingons, which that too brings up an interesting thing, because with the opening credits this season, they retooled it and had that Klingon ship chasing the Enterprise. We didn't really get to see much of the Klingons this season.
No, we didn't. And I think that could be more of a prelude to season 4, in my opinion. I think that we may see a lot more Klingons next season.
Are we going to get
there has been a lot of time jumps.
Are we going to get the aqua tread Klingons? Or are we going to get the smooth-headed Klingons? Or are we going to get both? Or are we going to see any smooth-headed Klingons?
I don't know. I hope we do, in all honesty.
And say if someone from Paramount is watching this and say, hey, that's a good idea, give me some credit for that. I'd appreciate it.
Yes, yes, please do. Please do. Yes. Dave Pram, everyone. But no, I think that is more of a prelude. But as for the situation with Erica, there's been a lot of time jumps in this season. I mean, from Hegemony Part 2, the season premiere, to episode 2, there was like a 3-month jump.
3-month jump, yep.
And then, like, we know that for certain, but there has been so many more time jumps that throughout this season. I think that's why it seemed that everything has happened so quickly. And like the situation with Erica has seemed to have gone real quickly, because there have been a lot of time jumps in this season, whether it be like the 3 months, a couple of weeks, you know, but it hasn't been clearly stated. It's been alluded to, but nothing concrete. So I think that's where the confusions hit with a lot of people as well. You know, especially when it comes to Erica, because we didn't really see her take her, like, suffer the consequences of her actions, sort of thing. And I was actually quite, even though Terrarium was absolutely brilliant, I think it was only really in that episode that she was dealt with, basically. That's probably the wrong way to put it, but I don't know how else to put it because I'm very discombobulated right now. But I mean, obviously, we know that Erica was suffering from PTSD, and she had a lot of hate towards the Gorn, and how much it took for her to trust that Gorn, you know, in Terrarium. And, you know, hats off to Melissa for playing that part, because she knocked it out the park. But I don't think that the PTSD was addressed enough, in all honesty. Obviously, it's understandable why they didn't want to focus on it too deeply until Terrarium, but, like, and yeah, that there was time jumps and stuff, but there was no, after the initial, like, misdemeanor and insubordination, you know, there wasn't really much after that alluded to the PTSD that she was going through. And, you know, there was, like I say, my memory is, you know, more or less non-existent right now. But there was no real mention of, like, therapy. Or if there was, it was only like once. And the rest of the time she seemed absolutely fine. Now, all right, I know that PTSD sufferers can seem fine a lot of the time, but there's always a slight tell. And I don't think that was written in. There was no, like, when it came to any form of battle scene or any danger, there was no, like, flinching or jumpiness that could indicate that, yes, even though she does seem that she's doing okay, that there is still an issue there. And I do understand PTSD. I do. For my own personal reasons, but we won't get into that. But you know, that there is always a tell there, regardless of how outwardly confident somebody is, how I am fine now, you know, that there is still always that little tell. And I think that should have been written in more than it was, because it, like I say, it went from the initial stages of the PTSD, the insubordination, absolutely fine, Terrarium. And that for me, even though, like, the way things were handled in Terrarium was absolutely brilliant, and by the end of that episode, there was a lot of confusion within Erica, but she was a little bit more settled in the knowledge that not every single member of the Gorn are alike, you know. And there was a lot of confusion, there was a lot of mixed emotions, and she was actually annoyed with La'an for killing a Gorn.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, that was it. I think to some degree that will always be with Erica, but it does need to be addressed, because you to some degree you never get over PTSD. It gets easier to live with and you can deal with it, but it doesn't fully go away. and I do think that it needs to be handled the kind of way it was handled in Terrarium, you know, because that for me was handled very well. It was just, you know, the bits in between from the initial stages and then the insubordination and then Terrarium, but the bits in the middle, I don't believe that was handled well. The bits either side of it was just not the in-between bits. And I do think that in that sense, it wasn't handled correctly, like in the middle. But either side of that, it was handled brilliantly. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense too. You know, that does make sense. You know, one episode that really stood out for me particular and stuff and everything, it was the Saylock that ate its tail. Is that what his name? That that stood out more when at the ending, the big reveal at the ending about, oh my goodness, the scavenger ship was actually humans and stuff and everything else. And that was a big twist and stuff because I did not see that coming. Didn't even think about that and everything. That right there, and then they started, you know, going into the history and stuff, and they found out, oh, you know, these these scavengers are our people, you know, for a good long while. You know, nobody knew who they were and stuff and everything because, you know, they looked, they had these big, almost like deep sea diving suits and stuff and everything. And it really stood out in a sense that you could tell that it affected Kirk in a way because he basically fired the torpedoes that, you know, blew their ship up and stuff. And, you know, they were just surprised at just how did these humans live, how did they survive for so long and go undetected? And nobody, you know, detected them and stuff and everything else. I mean, yes, they came across them, but yet nobody could identify them and stuff. And they were scavengers and stuff. That was a pretty. It's one of the most memorable episodes of this season and stuff, just
Yeah.
because, you know, the twist at the end.
Yeah, I mean, that episode for me, my heart goes out to your partner, Dennis. Much love. But that episode stood out for me, and in all honesty, there were little indicators that these people were going to be human. And I actually called it. Especially when just with a few little things. I mean, the ship itself, like the huge scavenger ship, it was adorable. I absolutely love it. It was so cute. It had a lovely smile. It reminded me of a Leviathan, in all honesty, and very kind of the way that it was spoken about kind of sort of reminded me of like fictional like big bads like Cthulhu and things like that, you know, and just the way it was spoken about. And then the suits, it's like a few people have said they were like old school deep sea diving suits, but kind of like a bit spacey. And the way they moved as well was very human. And then when the guy didn't shoot, that was when it was certain for me that these people were human. That there were a lot of indicators if you looked very carefully in that episode and you looked deep enough. there were a lot of indicators that these scavengers were actually human, and I really liked that twist of it, because it showed a side of humanity that a lot of people don't think is real, and yet it's all over.
Well, that begs the question about the whole thing, because I know we discussed it prior to, I mean, when after this episode a few weeks back last month and stuff, about the moral and ethical dilemma of, if you was to be put in a situation like that, would you or could you become those kinds of people and stuff and everything. I remember Star Trek had, Dr. Bashir mentioned that. I think he had there was a more ethical discussion that he had. I'm not sure it was Cisco, or I think it was past tense or something. It was something about, you know, could you revert back to a savage way of living versus progressing to a more, you know, logical way of what a Vulcan would say and stuff.
Mm,
And it's one of
yeah.
those things where, you know, the moral and ethical dilemma and stuff with, surviving and stuff and everything else. And you go and you look at, too, like here in the US and stuff and everything, we got people who, they said that, they go off grid, or they have been off grid, or frontiersmen, like people who were called frontiersmen, or people who, yeah, who decided, not to be part of, societal structure and stuff and everything. And you wonder just how much, somebody will revert back to, not calling us primitive, but like something before,
Well, not just primitive, but just more primal, more regressive.
yes, something more regressive and stuff like that, instead of, like, taking for yourself and not thinking about others, or the possibility of, could there be others and stuff and everything. It's just like, take for yourself and leave nothing else.
More primal and unrestrained.
But one little tidbit that I caught, that I wrote down watching the episode, that, well, one, a little slip of tongue, the way Spock referred to it as, but Vulcans can detect tremors. They can, I guess they're like animals here on Earth, is they can feel an earthquake occur before it actually, the others feel it, sort of thing. But he referred to it as earthquakes instead of tremors or land quakes or something along those lines, which, it was the Deja Q, the alien race that the Enterprise was trying to save the moon from deteriorating into planet surface. They referred to as that we're dealing with land quakes and tsunamis, and so, but she referred to it as land quakes and not earthquakes, because earthquakes are from
Or
Earth.
you just call them quakes. That's what people say. Could you
Exactly.
call an earthquake on another planet? Yeah, well, you don't use the word earth, you use quake. The shaking.
Yeah.
Quake is a
Well,
shaking.
I guess it's kind of like if you're referring to a tissue, it's Kleenex, even though it's Kleenex is a brand. You call Puffs Kleenex because that's
What
vernacular.
about this?
Yeah.
What about this? Kidnapping. Like, well, I mean, kidnapping for an adult. I mean,
Mm.
technically, it's an adult being, you know, abducted, not
Hmm.
kidnapping, because
Or
it's
just
the adults
abduction.
that keep. It's an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's just little things like that. I caught that. I thought that was a pretty interesting thing.
You see, I think that was done deliberately because of, like, Spock exploring his humanity a little bit more, and the fact that he was teaching another Vulcan how to be human. I think that him saying earthquake rather than tremors, I think that was put in there deliberately, in all honesty. I think it was a deliberate not faux pas, but just a little.
I'd call it a faux pas, slip of tongue.
Yeah, I think I honestly do think, because a lot of these things are done deliberately by the writers, and it kind of goes with Spock's journey throughout this season, and he's been on a journey. I mean, at one point, was it this season that he became fully human, or was it the season before?
Season 2.
But even still, he's been on a journey, like, you know, right from Discovery season 2, which I always call the prequel to Strange New Worlds.
It absolutely
yeah. You know, he has been on a very huge journey, and that journey is still ongoing. He's been trying to find a balance between the two halves of himself, and he's gone to extremes with it, to a point where, you know, like at one point he not through any fault of his own, so to speak, but he became fully human, and he had to learn how to Vulcan while being fully human. And I think since then he's had a bit more of an appreciation for his human half, and he's embraced it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And it suits him. And I'm sorry, but that post-credit scene with Spock and Doug, you know,
hopefully Doug comes back next season.
Oh, I hope so, because I love him, and I love the actor who plays him as well.
You know something Spock mentioned, and I think it was what's that, 4.5 Vulcans in the episode 4? What was that? 4.5 Vulcans. He mentioned in the beginning of the episode too, you know, about how he had a childhood friend. He was a kid, he has a childhood friend, and you know, they played with him, you know, they played together and stuff, but at a certain point, you know, his father, the boy's father, or you know, parents basically said that they didn't want Spock, or they didn't want their son to play with Spock anymore because he was half human. And I just think about, you know, wow, you know, I mean, that's another little, you know, a little thing that Spock had to go through when he was growing up, is he had to deal with that form of, you know, kind of bigotry towards him and stuff, and prejudice. And you start, and I look at that and I'm thinking about, I think I said this before over here, but you know, people who are biracially or multiracial, and you know, you look at that at one point, you know, somebody who was, you know, at a point here, especially here in the US and stuff, you know, who was coming off as biracial, because at one point, you know, it was illegal to, you know, and not someone, but it was not so much illegal, but it was frowned upon for a black and a white couple to have a mixed child, a biracial child and stuff. And then you start looking at multiracial and stuff. And then, you know, the child will feel like, you know, they don't know where to belong in the culture. Like, do they fit like the grandparents? You know, you got black grandparents, you got white grandparents. Not every, you know, you may be surprised. You might get some ostracization and some negative feelings toward one of your grandparents because you are a product of something that they did never agree with. And, you know, you will feel, some have experienced, you know, that, you know, being part of, and we're all human beings, but we just have different skin colors and stuff. The fact that, you know, there are people who look at people who are not who are biracial and multiracial in such a different way than somebody who looked like a full white person or a full black person and stuff, and a person of multiracial color and stuff and everything else, kind of it looked down upon and frowned upon. You see what I'm saying? Like the Spock thing reminds me of people who still have those feelings and notion, and we have had this in our past too, where there have been grandparents who have rejected their grandchildren because their son or daughter had a child with somebody of a different skin color. I'm not to say race because we're all human race, but a person of different skin color and stuff and everything. Because you look at that, you'd be like, wow, Spock, he endured, that kind of prejudice and bigotry on his own. Well, his, one of his home worlds. Earth is his home world too, but Vulcan is his home world as well and stuff. And that's just like, I kind of like that little notion that Spock experienced as a child. Not saying it is right, but they threw that in there about him being interspecies because it's a Star Trek and we talk about interspecies and how will we human feel? Not saying in the future if future human beings start to mate with other species if we can, I mean, that's just me throwing that
And
out
you
there.
see, I think that Vulcans are probably the most hypocritical race in the existence of all alien species to have ever have been thought of, mentioned, or anything, because they're what is it? Infinite diversity in infinite combinations.
Yep. IDIC. Yep.
Yeah, and yet, what that stands for, they completely disregard when it comes to Spock.
You're absolutely right.
I briefly brought this up in the show when we were discussing this episode, and they are so hypocritical, and this is what does my head in about Vulcans so much, because they come across so that they have this superior air to them. Dave, go ahead.
No, we hit a Star Trek number. We got 47 viewers right now, and none of them have popped in to put in their 2 cents to this episode or the season as a whole, because that's what we're primarily talking about right now. So I got 7 slots available. You just click the link below in my YouTube description below, and that'll take you to StreamYard. It'll just ask you to make sure that your camera and your microphone's working, that you're in. So just a reminder, because we'd love to talk to you. That's what makes this show unique from other Star Trek podcasts, is because we want you to come in. We want to hear your 2 cents. We want to see you present your 2 cents and say it, because it's just
participation. We like
even if you don't want to show us your beautiful faces, we still want to hear your beautiful voices. And just come on, just see what happens. I like talking to people, and we all do, and we're a family here.
Everybody too who's new to the channel stuff, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, say that helps. It helps us out, helps make things better for us. But talking about participation, right at the end of the episode, when Batel and possessed Gamble kind of went into the whatchamacallit prison for those things, Pike was alone in there. And it was mentioned earlier, the only way for people to get in and out is through a pair. Where's Pike's pair to get out of there? Because it went to commercial, then next scene we're back on the Enterprise, and there he is. How the heck did he get out?
What do you mean it went to commercial?
I wonder that too. If it switched to, it cut there, and then when it came back on, it just boom.
He was out.
Question: what do you mean it went to commercial?
No, at the end when well, the end of the scene when it goes to black, it goes to commercial for people with Paramount Plus that gets Paramount with commercials. That's why they still have those acts like old school TV
Ads.
shows.
Yeah,
But
If you got the lower
Bengal was
tier,
laid unconscious on the floor.
Oh, that's right.
that's right. He was still laid on. He was laid on conscious
But
on the floor.
that just leads to the other question: when did he wake up?
Well, the thing is, we didn't see Pike get out of there. We
Yeah.
didn't actually see him get out of there. So, obviously they didn't want to film Pike being like, Bengal, wake up. You're not dead, wake up. They didn't want to film that. But, Bengal was there. So, that was the pair.
Yeah, see, I have kind of a similar situation there, Dennis. Is the night that I went blackout drunk last May, still don't remember any of it at all. All I remember is the aftermath and Becca and Cassie give me the ultimatum to dump the booze or move out, and I dumped the booze. I was intending on getting my own apartment and start drinking again, but that's when I started going to the rooms of AA and realizing that drinking is not a solution.
No.
Nowadays I tell people that when I moved here to Colorado Springs, I just knew them, the kids and the guys from Click Tight. But we all did our separate things. So typically the two people that I hung out the most with was Jack and Jim. Jack Daniels and Jim Beam.
Yeah.
And I was drinking both of those heavily. But
yeah,
I stopped, and coming up on the 18th, I'll be 16 months sober.
Woo! I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And I cannot express this enough. The strength and commitment and dedication that you have shown on your sober journey continually, however you pronounce that word, gives me inspiration and gives me strength. Because even in those times, Dave, when you struggle and you have your moments of feeling low, you still power on. You still stay committed. You don't deviate from the path you've set yourself on. And that is strength. That is inspiration right there. And anyone who's watching, this guy is like a brother to me. And I love him to pieces. And I take his strength and I hold it close to my heart. And I carry that with me. And when I feel like giving up because of my various ailments and things like that, I just think about Dave and the strength he's showing on this journey. And I cling to it for dear life. And it helps me through. So just take note of that, people. This guy is amazing.
Yeah, so one of the things that gives me strength.
I was going to ask you too, with your recovery and stuff and everything else, has any form of Star Trek has helped you in your recovery process as well? Like, we have these Star Trek podcasts and stuff and everything. Have you looked on Star Trek as something to help be a positive guide for you in your strength of moving forward?
I haven't honestly put too much thought about that, but if I had to choose an episode, even though the path is slightly different. It would have to say it's only a paper moon from DS9 when Nog was dealing with his trauma after
Yeah. Yeah.
losing his leg, and is saying even though it's not quite the same, it's just the struggle and to get past that thinking I'm having a shit day, I need a drink. It's not going to help. It's not going to help me get these things. See, I care. This is my 1 year chip that I got back in May. I carry it with me every day. See, I did get a couple of chips. I'm giving some of those away, and see, I got one that I'm going to be putting in a display for the back wall. Um, but yeah, this one's from my home group. This is the one that started it all, and saying so. I carry it with me in my breast pocket, so it's close to my heart always. And if I'm starting to struggle or feel any inclination, I'll reach in my pocket and I'll just start fiddling with it, just rubbing it, just to
Okay.
kind of get that craving away. But I owe a lot to my sponsor, and he like whenever I really feel strong about having a drink and giving up and starting my count over again, I'm making a phone call. If he doesn't answer, I got several other phone numbers from people in the various rooms that I attend saying, "Hey, I need help. I don't want to do this. My cravings are strong. Talk me out of it, please."
Okay. Wow. Yeah. That's that big step. Absolutely big step. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yes. Yes, Dennis. Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and yeah, I was still
Absolutely.
yeah, I was still drinking in the early days of when I started doing this podcast. Or no, actually no, I take that back. Say it was still when we are still on Twitter
Yes,
those
on
first
the
ones in
Twitter
January.
space. Yes.
Yeah, saying so it was yeah, we started doing this in early June last year, and I was just barely a few weeks sober at that time.
Yeah. A lot was spoken about on DT.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
me watching some of the old DT episodes when I was popping on talking to guests, I was disgusted. I thought I was doing fine, but seeing myself afterwards, just thinking, yeah, that's no, no, that's not good.
But Dave, I'm just gonna say it's not so much, it fits in your thing, but it's something that I can remember. One of the rules of acquisition, rule 23.
Hmm.
Nothing is more important than your health except for money.
Except your money. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I want to.
But no, it was interesting that you asked Dave that question, Travis, about Star Trek helping him, because I can actually say that Star Trek has helped me a lot. For various reasons. And now this is like really weird, but between Star Trek, Stargate, and Disney, they have been basically my triangle of peace and my triangle of strength is what I call them. Because I adore Star Trek. I'm a big Trekkie. I also love Stargate, but I'm a huge Disney fan as well. And those three things over the course of my life have helped me through so much. And whether it's just to get lost in them or a song or a certain episode, it's really helped me, especially
But
Star Trek.
Wait, I see Dennis in chat. He mentioned a few things ago, a few back. He said he was a co-producer on the Seventh Rule. Is that with it was Sarah Laughlin and Aaron Eisenberg, right?
yeah,
He said
there.
he used to co. I have been following them for years, following that that channel for years and everything. I did not know Dennis, you know, was part of that. Wow. I just want to throw that out there and stuff. Wow, thank you. Uh Also too, what you said too, Katie, about it being your triangle, you know, we're right now in a very heated political climate and stuff. And some of us have been kind of wanting to shy away or just isolate ourselves away from, the current news cycle or just anything to happen in negativity in our country and stuff and everything. Star Trek, in a sense, is in other, various ways like this, gives us a little breathing room to talk. We could talk about fun things.
Mm.
We could talk about things that make life make life so enjoyable to talk about or to do in life and stuff and everything else. We may not all agree about Star Trek and stuff, but even a disagreement can be fun. The disagreement is fun. It's just more than we can agree with
Well,
each other.
look at me and you, Travis, about TOS. I mean, there's been times, when we've been speaking
I'm not
about
the only
it,
one.
and
You'll go at it with Tyson. You'll go at it with Tyson,
oh yeah,
Sixer when he joins us and stuff. It's all the fun and game and stuff and everything when it comes to people who like ourselves. Try to put ourselves out of the whole real world aspect of what we deal with when we go back to our lives after we get off live streaming and stuff and everything. And it's fun. Star Trek has always been a fun type of thing to talk about, and it's crossed many generations. There's
yeah.
many there. It's been around for nearly 60 years. And the Star Trek has helped a lot of people cope with a lot of things. Oh boy.
Oh, yeah. I wish I had the opportunity to talk to
Yeah.
Aaron. So that's
Yeah.
cool.
Oh man. I I wish I too. Me too. Me too. I would have enjoyed. And
Yep.
for somebody like him, it would have been so very. It would have been so interesting if he could have ever been on our show.
Mm.
If Aaron could, come on our show, and I would love to have interviewed him. Simply just talk about, not just Star Trek, but just his life in general. It's like yeah, I like to talk to Star Trek people, Star Trek actors and stuff and everything, but like that could get boring at time. It would been it's so nice to actually talk to someone who walked into Star Trek, legacy and stuff and everything else, and footstep and everything else, like Sarah Lifton. It'd be nice to talk to him and ask him about him growing up, how he get his acting creds, and where he got his start and everything, his auditioning to Deep Space Nine, just little things like that, just a little stuff and everything. But yeah, talk about Star Trek, but it would have been nice to have I wished I could have met him and stuff. He was one of the few ones that I really, wanted to meet.
Well, little tidbit. Earlier in the show, I did a quick tweet just saying my podcast is really small right now, but and I've had Mono Interami as a guest on it in the past, but I'd really love to have people like Nicole DeBoer and Melissa Navia be on the show. So I tagged them on Twitter to see. Well, we'll see what happens. See if
Okay.
anything happens to that. Um,
You know,
oh my Lanta, oh my Lanta.
you know, huh?
That's on my watch list. That Manu's in that. So
Yes. Yes, indeed.
so
Mono
I forgot that Dennis knows Manu. So whoops.
Dennis knows Manu. I would not be surprised. And our little show is an offset of his show dangerous thoughts. And
Mhm.
I was talking to Manu's tech producer, Cassie, and he was telling me that they are really close to starting DT 2.0 again.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
everybody, Manu has, him and was that Manu and Tyson,
Mhm.
2.0 is coming back
Ju-
really soon.
Yeah, just like family events. I won't go into great details. I mean, well, we know of his sexual life, the Val's heart attacks and things like that. And as soon as she started to recover, the show's getting ready to go back on the air again. Another family member had a hospital visit, so that just kind of put the brakes on the show yet again. But in technical issues galore, getting the new studio set up when everybody moved in
Oh yeah.
January. I've
Oh
got this.
yeah.
Yeah, they're still
Yesterday,
they're still tweaking they're tweaking and moving things around. I'm still moving things around behind me.
Yesterday, I was talking to Cassie on the phone, and he was in the
Mhm.
studio, and he was in the studio with Manu, and Manu asked, who he was on the phone with, Cassie, and Manu jumped on the phone and said hello to me real quick, and I expressed, my, deepest sympathy to, Val and everything, and he was like, I asked him, I said, I can't wait for you guys to, get back DT 2.0. He said, keep your fingers crossed, we're close.
Yeah. See, I wonder if they're going to keep the episode count going for where it left off, or they're going to start with
I
episode
don't
one
know.
again.
That is one thing that I don't know, and I think it's something that they're not or they weren't sure of.
Yeah. So the reason
But
why I think that, because the hiatus has been so long, our episode count is starting to surpass Dangerous Thoughts episode
yeah,
count. But
but
I
no,
I
I'm
do
very
gotta
much looking
yeah.
forward to it.
If it wasn't for Mono and Tyson, this show would not exist.
No,
If it wasn't for the generosity of Tyson, I don't think this. I mean, he's the one that designed the graphic to get me going to say, yeah, we owe a lot to them, because there was just that one day after the episode. Like, I'll let you go in a second, Travis, but I'd say there's just one episode that it's back when we were still doing on Twitter Spaces. Say,
yeah.
anyone want to continue the conversation? I created a whole new conversation. It went on for about 8 hours, and about 4 hours of it was me snoring. See, I was
Yeah,
drunk.
that was epic.
I was drunk. I was tired. I just passed out.
That was
With that,
epic.
with that
Your
said,
little snuffly snores became the soundtrack to the rest of that Twitter space. And
It's
I will forever hold that in my memory, because every now and again, I mean, it was even recorded. It was recorded, wasn't it? And you know
yeah,
what? I'm sure
I've
a
never
couple of
been
times
around.
on there. I'm sure a couple of times, like I think it was like me and Chris that were the last ones to jump off that, and then like it was Cassie before that, and there was a couple of times where I'm just like, oh bless him, I think he's just turned over, and like, oh, is he okay? And at one point it sounded like he sneezed, and I'm like, is he sneezing in his sleep? Just like,
Dave, is it fair to say that we would have Manu back on as a guest again?
Oh, I'm sure we can do that, and I'm going to do a better job of giving him a bigger window for. I'll do a different
yeah,
different layout for that, because
because I want to
I
cover the episode Imperfection
mm,
with Manu. I really would love to cover that episode with him,
I
because that episode packs so much of a punch.
Okay,
I
so
agree.
just
I'm
let our
actually
friends know in the future we will be having, like I said, our friend, our guest Manu on with us whenever Dave and him can set aside you know the time to do these little live these live podcasts or stuff here on Twitter and other places and stuff. But with that said, thank you, Dennis. I've been seeing he's very active in chatting and stuff, and it's
mhm.
really nice to know that you actually know Manu, and I mean, I'm I'm just learning some new stuff about you and stuff, and I have seen you in chat. But yeah, that's awesome and stuff to know that there's some people that we got people in chat that who know people who are in Star Trek and stuff. Thank you. And to the rest of everybody who is watching us and listening to us and stuff. Like we said before, you are welcome to come and chat with us.
Please
We
do.
offer, we encourage participation. We are one of the few little channels that offer, the ability to interact with us when we're live. You know, and we like to hear other people's thoughts and opinions and stuff, not just our own and stuff and everything. Because I love to debate, others and
Oh yeah,
stuff
and
and
I'm
everything.
sure sometimes Dave gets really sick and tired of having to be referee between me and Travis or me and Tyson. So come on, just to referee. Be the mediator. It'll be fun. Because we always have very healthy debates. There is no animosity with our debates. It's always, even if we do feel strongly about something, it is very light. And I do question my friendship with them.
You could say we could say we
but-
try to keep the prime directive among us.
Yes, we do. I mean, there's no handbags at dawn or anything. When we come off the podcast, there's no handbags at dawn. We respect each other's opinions, even if they're very out there. And I mean, these lovely gentlemen, they put up with me. So
yes, absolutely.
We want to hear your voices, even if you don't want to show us your pretty faces. We want to hear your voices because they are just as beautiful.
7 slots. My window's small, so like 7 slots available still, but we're creeping up on the 2-hour mark. But we have close to 50 viewers, so there's like, if you're feeling bold, go for it. If not, you can still do the.
Oh, come on, just one more viewer because this is sending my OCD crazy.
And you know what? Next time, if you're not not this time, next time, because Dave, what we got coming up for next week, and the coming couple of weeks or so, that people probably will want to chat with us because we're completely done talking about this particular season of Strange New Worlds because we're concluded, and now Dave, we're going to go back to what?
Well, there was the bit towards the end, like, which I didn't realize at first, because I guess a mind lock kind of mind meld where Spock and Kirk were in complete synchronicity, I think that's how you pronounce it, where they were doing the maneuvers with the ships and whatnot. But the after effects of the reunion, the mind meld, seeing how Kirk knew about Spock and La'an dancing. How did it go? See, I had it in my notes here.
But no, I think, even though, and now I have said this quite a few times, I'm not too keen on Paul Wesley. I'm not. However, I do think that he is doing Kirk justice in this, because he is sticking more to the original character profile for Kirk. Shatner just fucking ruined it. But he's playing the ladies' man, but then the serious parts, and then there's just all of the screw it parts of him, but it's still very balanced. And like I say, the original character profile of Kirk was very balanced, even though it was very up and down. There was still that median there, and I'm warming up to him as Kirk. and I'm very intrigued as to where this will go, and I'm hoping that season 4 we will see a hell of a lot more.
Suspended on Facebook. Wow. Yeah.
No, but
I totally get it. I totally get everything you've been saying. Yeah, I totally get it and stuff. It's
no, but
but you know what? Real quick, the ending with about Paul Wesley and Kirk. I suspect more of him in season 4, and
oh
Yeah, I
yeah,
hope
definitely,
so
definitely.
because I'm
I wonder if
invested.
he's gonna be he's gonna be added to the credits. Is he gonna become
A
in
regular.
in the fifth season? Is he gonna become a cast member? Is he gonna be a full cast member in the credits for season 5 and stuff? But until then, Dave, I'll let you take us closing home.
Well, no. So yeah, we're talking about is saying that when Kirk, I mean, well, the one thing with the ladies' man thing when Kirk warned Spock ahead of time about his Orion encounter.
Yes, yes,
And say, but yeah, the comment about the Orion, and then with the reboot,
yes.
2009 reboot, see, there's that scene when Kirk was messing around with an Orion girl. So I thought that was a nice kind of tie in a little bit to the Kelvin timeline. But yeah, and when On made the realization, he's like, "Oh God, the mind meld," and Kirk's just like a steel trap. See,
Yeah,
but
I'm quite invested in Paul Wesley as Kirk. I really am. And, I really do appreciate Dennis's comment there. And I really hope that I am, because I'm writing a series of books. So, do you know what? Cassie's mentioned Substack to me. But I've not got around to even looking into it. But, thank you. Number 50, my OCD is sated. Thank you. It is calmed. Sorry, I requested one more because my OCD was going a little bit funny. But that's why I try not to look at the numbers of the viewers. Yeah. Sorry. But no,
yeah.
I do thank you, Dennis. Much love to you, my sweet. But no, I'm very invested in Paul Wesley as Kirk now, and I want to see this through. And I hope he doesn't fuck it up.
Well, then there's been murmurings about doing a Star Trek Year One series, which will have Paul Wesley commanding the Enterprise.
I can see that working.
Because I'm not sure how they're going to finagle it, because with the original series, the first episode where No Man Has Gone Before, which, by the way, say when the episode ended with Kirk and Spock playing chess, the 3D chess, that's what they were doing in Where No Man Has Gone Before, is they're playing 3D chess. So nice little tie in there. But obviously, because the costumes from Where No Man Has Gone Before and then the Corbomite maneuver, the costumes are totally different. There's about a 1 year gap. There's a 1 year gap there between that first episode and the second episode. So it's not the first time they've done something like that in Trek. But after year one, they're going to start maybe doing things. It's like between episode 2 and 3, this happened. Between 4 and 5, this happened. So it's going to be interesting to see if it becomes a multi-year project, or if it could be just like a one season 10, 12 episode event or something like that, to tie up any loose ends that they might have to deal with Strange New Worlds. Just a thought. So Paramount, if you're thinking that, throw me in the credits. I'm good.
Yes, definitely. Now there is one thing that I would like to end the show on. And it's going back to what Travis asked you earlier, but it's just like a little bit of a different spin. What is the one thing from Trek that has caught your attention to a point where you have learned something about yourself and you've ended up being a better person for it. Like one moment in Trek that you're just like, oh my God, wow. And that has resonated with you and it has helped you become a better person or handle things better.
Well, the first episode that pops into mind would have to be The Outcast from Next Generation.
Yeah.
But I mean, when that first aired, I always say, those new that are watching that don't know, say I'm gay, but I was so deep in the closet when Next Generation was airing. I was so deep in the closet, I'm surprised I couldn't see Narnia. See, I was just totally clueless to my sexuality back then, but watching it again as an adult, just like everything was there.
Yeah.
But the struggle that they had to go through to fight the system, saying this is who I am, this is who I love, this is how I feel, saying it, especially in this current administration, won't go too political. I do have some concerns about my safety sometimes. I have friends, and there are others, not just them. There are those in the LGBTQ community that are fleeing this country and getting passports and visas for other countries just to get away from this administration.
Mm-hmm.
And say I don't see myself going that far down. It's like I don't even have a passport yet, but see, I'm going to stay strong. I'm going to stand up whenever possible to just say, this is who I am. Saying, don't fuck with me, because if you do, there might be consequences.
I love
Just
that
remember
answer.
what happened.
And
Just remember what happened in 1969. In June of 1969, the Stonewall riots. They ended up fighting back for days on end, and they resisted. They got tired of getting pushed around, and those people became, they became the mothers of a movement for the last 60, almost 60 years and stuff.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
saying I am doing just that, Dennis, with going to my AA meetings, going to my home group, and we often refer to us as a chosen family, and saying we're there to protect each other, we're there to be a part of that. And yeah, Katie, yeah, I mean, I got my DT family, and say a lot of them showed concern for me, but like beforehand, and saying, see if it'll pull up here. There it goes. That was me.
Yeah.
That was me when I was drunk. And saying I just everything is fine. I'm fine. I was not fine.
yeah.
Saying even though the house is burning around me, and just like, I'm good. I'm fine. No problems here. And there's a shit ton of problems going on around me. And it, like I said, it took Cassie and Becca to give me that ultimatum. I mean, it hurt a lot, saying some of that alcohol that I poured down the drain. I hadn't even opened up the bottle yet, but I was waiting for a certain day. But just like,
Too bad Counselor Troy wasn't around to help you.
But going to my first AA meeting, I collapsed in a puddle of tears. But it still took me 100 something days to get to step 1 through the 12-step program. It's just like I am powerless over alcohol. And seeing some people from my high school reunions sloshing drinks around, and I had a non-alcoholic seltzer, which was nice, but I poured in a pint, made it look like I was enjoying myself. I was enjoying myself sober. And that's after I got back from my reunion. That's when I really started cracking down on the big book and working my steps.
And you have done amazingly, and you still are.
Hmm.
And by the
I guess
sounds of it, you've taken a lot of strength from Star Trek.
Yes.
You have.
indirectly,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
doing this
Um,
this podcast gives me strength. It gets me to share my knowledge, my
geekiness.
You, you
geekiness.
could say
Yeah, that's my. I was just trying to think
your
of
love for
my intimidating knowledge.
well, you know, your love for the possibility of the future of,
Oh
you know,
yeah,
what we hope that we can make the future for ourselves and stuff. You know, that's the fun and stuff and everything else. You know, I mean, it's the journey. You
hmm
know, it's the journey of, you know, trekking through our
the
own self
stars.
through
Yeah.
Star Trek itself. But
What was the moment for you, Travis? Was there one defining moment in Trek for you that helped you to be a better person, or helped you handle anything in your life better, that you drew strength from, like how Dave did?
so many moons ago, because I think Dave's just a slight older than me, but I
Oh,
remember I said just a slight because I'll be 47 next month. And that's a
oh
good
yeah.
number in Star Trek. If he's 47, that's a really good number, you know, in the Star Trek, you know, lore and stuff. You know, I think I don't know if I told this
Yeah.
story before, but like, you know, I grew up in a sense. I was a bright kid and stuff and everything else. When Star Trek Next Generation came on, I really fell in love with the show. I watched reruns of TNG, but you know, uh it was one of the things like, yeah, I like Star Trek, but the new Star Trek came on and stuff. And then it was just the eyes open for me and stuff. And somewhere down the line, um, there was two gentlemen named Michael Okuda and Rick Sternbuck. They came out with a Star Trek technical manual. And I remember wanting it so bad because, you know, with the new technology that I seen in Star Trek, especially like with the touchscreen computer panels and stuff and everything, I wanted to learn all that stuff. So when the it was a paperback too. When I convinced my parents, my mom, I think she got it for me. I could not read a lick of spit when it comes to that technical manual. Uh for one thing, it was so far advanced than, you know, than I could, you know, learn, that I grew up and I struggled with dyslexia. And, you know, I told myself, you know what, even though I cannot read this book, I'm going to do everything I can to force myself to learn how to read from the first page to the last page, no matter how long it took for me. And it took me, I wouldn't say many years, but it took, you know, some years as a kid wanting to learn them. And I really struggled to learn, you know, how to read properly and understand what I'm reading, and retain the information back to me and stuff and everything. And and by this time, it was probably about in when I was in late middle school, early high school, I have read that book already about like dozens of times over and stuff. But I remember, you know, learning, you know, this particular technical manual and stuff, because I was fascinated by the technical aspect of Star Trek and everything else, you know, even though I know it was a fictional show and stuff and everything else and stuff, but the to me, just understanding what they're saying on TV, like the technical jargon for me. I love to hear like what do they mean and stuff and everything else. And that particular Star Trek manual helped me understand, you know, a lot of Star Trek technical jargon. And I was so surprised when I started actually watching the show that I've retained this knowledge, and I was like, I know what they're talking about. I remember reading this stuff and everything else, and it was so refreshing to know in that when Star Trek Deep Space Nine came along, and I guess you guys already know, when they started saying and developing the rules of acquisition. I told myself for fun, you know what? Every time they're gonna bring up a rule of acquisition, I'm gonna try to remember that. I'm gonna try
Yeah.
to to write it down and just for fun and stuff and everything else. By the end of Deep Space Nine, I have I I I've taught myself how to basically be a Ferengi by learning the rules of acquisition and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where, it was all in fun and games. I know some stuff is just it was like, oh, I can't use this in real world. But like as I gotten older, I started, going back and, rethinking about the rules of acquisition. I was like, you know what? Some of these rules of acquisition, actually, you can apply these in real world applications. Some of them are way out there, but some of them has some, some legitimate, weight to them if you go through them and stuff and everything, and if you implement them if you're a business person and you implement them in your daily life and stuff. But that's one of those kind of things that set me, that had me set apart from like, just I just like a good storytelling and everything else. But it had a much earlier date of impact on me from where I was, a slow learner, a slow reader, and stuff.
But it helped you, and that is absolutely amazing. And I
Wow,
love
Dennis.
that.
Okay. Wow. Oh,
Yeah, see,
my.
I've been diagnosed with ADHD as well, and looking back at my life, I just realized, yeah, I went through all school not being properly diagnosed with it. It wasn't until I was in my 30s when it's like, yeah, you got it, and it just
Mm.
made a lot more sense in my life when just like, yeah, if I tell people when I talk to my mom about it when she was trying to find my report cards to see what my
Yep.
teachers were
Yep.
writing down, she's saying that's why we had you do your homework at the kitchen table. We want to make sure you're doing this, you're doing that, la 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 la. Then I swear I heard literally heard the light bulb pop over her head when she said, "Oh." And
Yeah.
saying, so I mean, but
You know what?
I grew up in the early '80s, so Ritalin was
Me too.
kids were
Me too.
getting
Like,
like
okay, when Star Trek Next Generation came on, LeVar Burton was still hosting a show here in the US on PBS called Reading
Reading
Rainbow.
Rainbow. Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows that theme song and stuff and everything else. And he stressed in stride, just like Fred Rogers did when he did his television show, when he was like, encouraged, young people about the simple basic of reading and writing and stuff and everything else. Take the time and stuff and everything else. And when LeVar Burton, I remember he did an episode in where he took you know his camera crew and stuff from Reading Rainbow around the set of Star Trek, and he talked about it and stuff like that. I was just so all into it and stuff and everything else. And LeVar Burton was he was an inspiration too of helping me. When I hear him talk about reading and stuff and everything, it's about a simple book. It don't have to be a book that is so advanced, and stuff. Reading a simple book, it don't it could be a kid's book, and stuff.
Yeah.
Just the basic simple of reading a book can have a big impact on you.
I mean, I've got tons of books in my library, and some of those are kids' books. Some of those are children's books.
Yeah,
I've got a
Dennis.
few Roald Dahl. I've got 2 books by Matthew Gray Gubler, and who plays Spencer Reed in Criminal Minds. And that they are children's books, and they're all about being different, and it's okay to be different. And I've read them, and they are so beautiful. They really are. So Travis is right. It don't matter what you read or how you read, how fast or slow. Just pick up.
One of my favorite books when I used to, was Dr. Seuss. I always
I could
loved
never
those
get
little.
on with those. I could never get on with those.
It was
Yeah,
just so for me. It was so fun to hear, to hear somebody read it, and then you try to go back and read it yourself. But I don't want to spend too much talking about all this because I know we're
yeah,
getting
because
way past our time.
yes, and I
Thank you,
actually
Katie, for asking it.
yes, but yeah, there's a different AA meeting I'm going to check on tonight. That's in 40 minutes, so I definitely got to wrap it up so I can hit the head and take care of my business in there. It's like TMI, but say making it 2.5 hours without having to you do that is an accomplishment for a diabetic. But say so, yeah. Next week we're going to go back to the at least for a few weeks. I think Katie and will have to sit backstage one day and figure out who to do. But say the first person we're going to do is the doctor. I'm joking. Say going to go Tom and Balana. Yeah,
Yeah, I love those.
Yeah, see, that's a better picture than the one that I had before, but both Tom and Balana had similar paths in the early seasons of Voyager. Balana being a Maquis rebel and an academy dropout, and then Tom, he had a similar path as Nick Locarno, where he had an accident and people died, but he was able to still keep his commission until he went to the Maquis, got arrested, and then was asked to help find Tuvok and the Maquis that Voyager was going. So they had both had similar journeys, and eventually they started getting close. They got married. They had a kid at the end of the series. But I think it's I think there'll be a good topic. So we'll
It's
be
going to be
talking.
interesting to talk about their story arc next week and stuff and
Oh,
everything.
absolutely. And I'm going to
Dennis,
do better.
I want to say thank you for stopping by and talking with us. You have been so active in chat with us, and it's been so great. I have loved everything. I have really enjoyed everything that you have um, talked to us and told us about and stuff
Like,
like
yeah,
this.
see, no, I was up for 29 hours not too long ago dealing with some of the drama in the house here. So I feel for you, man. As I'm actually surprised that I lasted that long. I did snap a couple of times, which was humorous because one of the rock stars in the house, he was with me while we were trying to get another guy the help that he needed. So
Yeah.
hopefully he did, because he kind of up and walked away from the hospital. So it is what it is on that regard.
I am sending
And
everyone so many sleeps. I really am. Even if it takes more sleep away from me, I really don't care. I'm used to going days without sleep now. I am sending so many sleeps to everyone.
And you know what? Not just Dennis, but anybody who watches us and who's still here with us and stuff, thank you for stopping by. I hope you guys stop by the next opportunity. If you want to interact with us, you know how to, just simply get in the, description down below and click that, link.
Yeah.
And
If you're not watching on YouTube, it's a Dave Prime 1701, and saying, and yeah, just like, subscribe, and that way you can be up to date. You can interact. You can give me a thumbs up. I'm saying, because
yes, come
again,
back and see us.
yeah, the more thumbs up I get, the more YouTube notices me, and yeah, you get to join on the fun. We're here every Monday at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern, and whatever time zone Katie's in. And the same, but
1 a.m. UK.
okay. Saying so. Thanks everybody for joining tonight. Until next week, may Spock be with you. Live long and prosper.
Doodles.